How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Next Goal Wins TV. Today we're talking Crystal Palace and Chelsea. It was a video that I thought was going to be made with me talking about Chelsea kind of coming back to their form and back to where they were when they were title contenders, if you will. Recent results haven't been great for Chelsea, just some lackluster performances, not playing to their capabilities, especially when you have as many good attacking players as they do. And I also think that they've really developed a good system under Enzo Maresca, and a system that hasn't been the exact same system that he started with, but it's actually transformed to give them a little bit more. And what I mean by that is earlier in the season, they used to build in a 3-2-5. So they would have 3 center backs, 2 holding center mids to help them bounce the ball. And then they basically leave everyone in that front line of 5. So as soon as they started bouncing the ball and were able to look forward, one of those players from the 5, whether it was Enzo Fernandez or Cole Palmer, would check into those spaces almost like a false 9, if you will, and receive the ball. And then all of a sudden, once they're looking forward, they have 4 other players already in the box or up in really good attacking positions so that they could play the ball out wide, go into 1v1s, they could get crosses. They were very dangerous in that sense. The risk that they always took was not having enough numbers in the build-out, because when you play with a 3-2, if a team presses really well and regains possession of the ball in the midfield, Chelsea essentially has 5 players on the wrong side of the ball. The way that they've transformed slightly, it's the same numbers really, it's just flipped, is now they're actually playing in a 2-3-2-3. So what they do is they'll keep 2 center backs as they build in possession. They'll push Moises Caicedo as the only 6. They'll push Malo Gusto and Cucurella really wide into that next line. So it's those 2 center backs, Caicedo, Malo Gusto, and Cucurella, and then they'll leave Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer in that next line of 2, basically just in those spaces like I was talking about earlier, where if they can break the pressure and find those players, it's the same thing as when they were building in a 3-2. It's just basically flipped with those first 2 lines. And then finally, with that front line of 3, Sancho and Neto and Jackson start playing a little bit more narrow, which gives Sancho and Neto a little bit more space out in the wing if they decide to check out wide and go 1 versus 1. But they always want to start a little bit more narrow because Cucurella and Malo Gusto are already occupying the wide areas. So as you can see from the first goal, Levi Colwill gets the ball, plays it straight to Sancho. Sancho lets it go, gets around his defender, plays it into Cole Palmer, and then all of a sudden the ball's in the back of the net. So with 2 passes from the back, the ball's already in the back of the net. So I think Crystal Palace, what they were trying to do, defensively at least, is play in a little bit more of a lower block. They were trying to block out those passes to Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer, and basically just let Chelsea play out wide to Gusto, play out wide to Cucurella, back to the 2 center backs, and kind of let them move the ball around the back line without really being able to break into any lines or create any danger up top. And then what I did notice was that as the game went on, even though Crystal Palace was defending in a low block, they would pick and time their moments to go in high press. And it worked a couple of times, although that's the risk that they were taking as well, as if they weren't going to pick their moments carefully, Chelsea were just always going to be really good at breaking that press. So Chelsea, I think, were waiting for it a little bit, knowing that at some point they were going to come out and press. And the moment that they did that, could they find Cole Palmer? Could they find Enzo Fernandez in those spaces? And then from there, Chelsea have a lot of opportunities to go forward. And while they did go down 1-0, I do think part of Oliver Glasner's plan was, can we keep the scoreline low so that later in the game, we always have a chance to get back into the game? One of Chelsea's biggest strengths, which I think is the organization in the build-out and understanding exactly what those positions look like, was also the reason that Crystal Palace got the goal to tie the game and end up 1-1. Cole Palmer, which is rare, you wouldn't expect him to be the one that loses the ball, gets played into the middle, loses the ball, and because Crystal Palace is pressing so well, the moment they win that ball in transition and they know that Chelsea has 5 players on the wrong side of the ball, they start to push numbers forward. The ball gets to Eze. Eze plays it across to Mateta, and Mateta scores pretty much a tap-in at that point. So really good tactics when you think about it from Crystal Palace as far as what they were trying to do, just keep the game at a low score going into the later stages of the game where it started to open up. The issue is that Cole Palmer, if he's not having a good game or if he goes quiet, Chelsea don't really have too much going forward. Chelsea don't really have anybody else who's stepping up and creating opportunities in place of Cole Palmer. I think that Pedro Neto's been really good. He's been very consistent, but even as the game goes on, Pedro Neto starts to fade a little bit. Sancho starts to fade a little bit. And when you're looking at your striker, Nico Jackson, he had some opportunities to score to put the game away. I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought he was starting to find his form. He was starting to become a player that was consistently finishing his opportunities. And once again, we're back to square one, in my opinion, here in this game, where he had some opportunities to go 1v1, some half chances that you would think a world-class striker can put away. And unfortunately for Chelsea, it just wasn't Nico Jackson's day today. So now Chelsea's sitting in 4th place at 36 points, where Liverpool is at 45. So 9 points behind Liverpool, and Liverpool with 2 matches in hand. So I do agree with Enzo Maresca. I don't think that Chelsea was ever really in the title race, especially now. I think they're more in a race for the top 4 and making sure that they can cement their position in the Champions League next season. It's going to be difficult. I think there's still a long part of the season to go. Newcastle obviously starting to find their form again. Manchester City, I think as soon as that new year hits, they just become a different team. I think they'll sort their stuff out. And then I think eventually Nottingham Forest, while they might fade later on in the season, they're still in third spot right now above Chelsea and behind Arsenal. So it's going to be tough for Chelsea to finish in that top four, especially if they don't start to improve their performances to where they were a little bit earlier in the season. Disappointing afternoon for Chelsea. Should have come away with the 3 points, but fair play to Crystal Palace. Stayed in the game, played the right game plan, pressed when they needed to press, and ended up coming away with a point at home against a tough Chelsea side.